No, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is not Friday, but we are gonna do new makeup releases, the tag. I've been doing this tag for, oh my gosh, I wanna say this is the 4th or the 5th year. Wait, let me look. I created this tag a couple of years ago, basically because I've been doing the new makeup releases, which is based on Samantha March's Will I Buy It? And I have been doing well, I think we're on like 350 episodes of new makeup releases. I do them every Friday, and every year I come back and I do this tag around this time, around Christmas time, and we basically look back upon the year. So we are gonna look back at 2024. What were the releases that lived up to the hype? Which ones did not? Which were the curveballs? Which ones were the snoozefest? And what do we think about releases for next year? But let me actually look. How many of these have I done? I'm gonna guess 4. Oh my gosh. This is the 6th year in a row. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look, I was in my office in Sweden, the dark one. The black hole. I was in my cave. Time really does fly when we're having fun. Usually I do this video with Samantha March, who is my bestie. If you're not following her, you really should. She is a lot of fun, but she's no longer doing the Will I Buy It, and I am the clown that keeps talking about makeup every week. And I'm just so excited about makeup. It just brings me so much joy. So I thought I was just gonna try and answer these questions on my own. But if you do a Will I Buy It and new makeup releases, and or maybe you just want to reflect back on these questions yourself, I will leave the questions down below in the description box in case you are interested. But let's jump in, because the first question, what mainstream release lived up to the hype most this year? I think that this one, I don't know if people are gonna agree with me, because the first thing that I want to talk about are the pocket blushes by Rhode. And I feel like these were the first actual makeup-y product that Rhode was releasing. They started as a skincare brand. This is Hailey Bieber, right? It's Hailey Bieber's makeup brand, and she started out doing skincare, and I feel like it got a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. People are liking it. Then she did the lip balm, and she started doing those in a bunch of different colors. This has truly been the year of squeezy tubes. Send help. But those were really hyped, and they seem to be living up to the hype. But then she released the pocket blushes, which was her first makeup product that was an actual makeup product and not a skincare product that happened to have some color, like the lip balms. You could still say that's kind of a skincare product. And I have not tried the blush, but I have heard that people love them. I've heard that people think they are worth the hype. They keep selling out, people keep loving them. And I am just gonna go out on a limb and say that they got a lot of hype, but I mean, clearly they were worth the hype because people actually do seem to like them. The next thing I'm going to talk about is something that isn't necessarily my favorite. I don't dislike it. I really don't. But these are the blushes by Rare Beauty. And these came out earlier this year, and they got so much hype. People were so hyped about them. But people also love them. For me, they are a smidgen too metallic for me. I love a glowy cheek. I mean, you can tell I love me a glowy cheek. I love being glowy. I don't love being glowy in my T-zone, but I love being glowy in the rest of my face, quite honestly. I want to have matte shine. That's how I prefer my entire makeup look to look. But I don't love when blushes have this much sheen, because I like being able to control the sheen myself with the highlighter on top. And with that being said, I love a couple of these products that are like a highlighter, blush hybrid, and I actually do quite enjoy quite a few of these products. But this one, the same actually as the highlighter, I think have a smidgen too much metallic to them. But with that being said, it was a very hype product, and people do tend to like it. So I do think that it lived up to the hype. People seem to really, really like these. Next one that I'm gonna mention that also got a lot of hype is a little bit more closer to the kind of formula that I like. And that is the Danessa Myricks glowy cream blushes that she had. These come in 4 different colors, and these are also a highlighter blush hybrid, but these are a little less metallic on the cheeks. They're absolutely incredible on the cheeks. I have 2 colors, love them. I've been traveling with them. I've been mentioning them in my favorites. You can already expect to see them in my yearly favorites. I think these are so good. These really are that perfect, really glowy cream blush without being metallic, without being glittery, and without being too streaky or weird on the cheeks. They're just truly beautiful. And quite honestly, I think that you could probably take a bit of this and blend into your foundation and it would still look glowy and nice. That's the kind of formula that this is. I am very impressed by this one. And it got a lot of hype when it was released, and I definitely think it lived up to it. And I want to say the same because Vanessa Myricks released a couple of primers earlier this year. I did not try the primer that was meant for dry skin, so I can't give any opinions about that. And quite honestly, I didn't really look at any reviews of that either because I knew, again, I have oily combo skin and I want to be matte in my T-zone. So a glowy primer just isn't for me. I know what it is and what it isn't for me, but the matte primer, I have that one. I really love it. It is a super like liquidy primer. It got a lot of hype and it really lived up to it. People love it. I love it. It is not my most mattifying primer in my collection, and I will touch on that a little bit later, but it really does work. And what I really like about this one is that it is super liquidy, so it actually layers beautifully together with other primers as well, which can be really good because sometimes when you add too many steps, it just ends up being goopy on the skin. But this one is a liquid and it just blends in perfectly, and it definitely lived up to the hype. I also want to mention the Precious Metals by Colourpop. I feel like this was probably Colourpop's most hyped non-collab palette this year, and the quality is great. Quite honestly, if you like this color scheme, if you think the neutrals with the like super metallic metals is something for you, this is great quality. It was hyped and a lot of people agreed this is a good palette. I'm gonna say it too. I have it. It's a good palette. Two more products I want to talk about, one of them being the cream bronzer from Too Faced. This one came out and everybody was talking about how cute it was and how good it smelled. It smells like chocolate oranges and it smells delicious, absolutely delicious. And you know what? It's a great product. It definitely lived up to the hype. I definitely recommend it. If you see this one in store and you have never smelled it, smell this product right now. It smells absolutely beautiful, and it is a really beautiful product as well. Definitely lived up to the hype. I also want to just mention the Makeup by Mario summer collection. It was genius. He released really poppy summer colors in two of his most loved formulas, which is the glowy lipsticks, the gloss in a stick, and the cream blushes. These were impeccable. Formulation, packaging, all of it, absolutely beautiful. It got a lot of hype before it got released. I bought a couple of it and it is so beautiful. Love it, still reach for it. I have one of these colored lipsticks in one of my purses. Cannot recommend these enough. Definitely lived up to the hype. And I also think that this one showed a lot of brands that you don't have to be too advanced with the summer collection. You can just release something that people already like. If you have two formulas that people already like or one formula that people already like, just release it in some summer colors. That's what Lawless does a lot as well. And just, you get this good result. Like, cause this release, it was nice. I love this one. Next one is indie releases that you think lived up to the hype. And I am just gonna pop up a bunch of pictures and I'm just gonna quickly say this truly is the year where so many indie brands were able to A, produce a lot of hype around the palette, and B, deliver on the hype. So many good palettes have been released this year. I just recently had this discussion with a couple of my friends that, just like me, do the palette ranking every year. When we basically collect all the palettes that we have been trying and reviewing this year, and we rank them from our least favorite to our most favorite. And we were like, what is the best one? Because so many good palettes have been released this year. And I think that indie palettes this year have truly delivered on the hype that they've created. I am blown away by how many good palettes have been released this year. I am just very, very impressed. And I do hope that one day, my own brand, we just released our first palette. I hope one day people will look at my brand like that. That is my goal. That's the legacy I want to leave, is that people look at my brand and be like, wow, like I look at these palettes. Wow, what a nice brand. What nice products. Because I've been so impressed with indie makeup this year. Now let's talk about the brand releases that did not live up to the hype. And I have a few. First, I want to mention what is going on with Patrick Ta this year. Patrick Ta used to be the absolute baby darling of the makeup community. He could do no wrong. Everything he released was amazing. People were just mentioning his products as their holy grails time and time and again. And I feel like he had a fall from grace this year. The foundation that he released was another really dewy, looked greasy on my skin at least, that I don't see a lot of people saying that they loved. I'm gonna be honest, I have not seen a lot of people like raving about that. Even people with dry skin, the reviews that I've seen have been like, it's fine. It's okay. The highlighters, what fresh hell what were those highlighters? One side was an almost not there highlighter, which I can appreciate. Again, I told you, I'm the kind of person that one day I feel like having a super glowy cheek, one day I feel like having an almost there cheek. It depends. So I can appreciate a natural highlighter. But what I cannot appreciate is how the other cream compartment was just goop. It was just Vaseline with glitter. It was such a weird formula where if you just added the absolute minuscule amount of too much on your cheeks, everything broke down. You look like you've been frying bacon. It just was such a weird formula. And I feel like the whole makeup community kind of agreed on those duos. We were like, what's going on here, dude? Like, this is too editorial for the mainstream market. And then came the eyeshadow duos. I feel like this was the nail in the coffin where people were like, what is actually going on right now with this brand? Because people were not having it. And I do own one of these duos and I've used them in a video, and I'm filming this before Black Friday. I've had up until now one of the most stressful months of my life. Not even gonna try and sugarcoat it. It has been absolutely bonkers. I have been working so much, and I'm not gonna be complaining because I love what I do, but I also love sleeping. So I didn't get around to actually like reviewing properly this eyeshadow formula, but I am gonna do it before the end of the year. But I can tell you right now, immediately when I felt this formula and immediately when I put it on my eyes, my first thought was, this feels like the special shades that you get from Pat McGrath. And I got the duo that had a duochrome in it. It had like a pink gold duochrome and it had like a light pink shimmer. I thought they were really nice. Some people were saying that there were some duos that were even better and some that were even worse. They were saying that I got like a middle one. I still think it was a good duo. Is a duo worth $42? I mean, honestly, I think that's too much. I think that you can get a good palette for around that amount of money. If you're looking for something fun and impactful, I think that you can get more bang for your buck for your $45 going elsewhere. But I still don't think that, at least the one that I tried, it wasn't a bad product. So if you like getting a more nicer packaging, buying it from Sephora, you like the Patrick Ta idea, you like the idea of having a duo, if you bought at least the shade that I got, I don't think you would be like, this is a bad product. But I also feel like, what could the product even have been for you to be like, oh yeah, this is definitely worth $42? Because you can scream from the rooftops being like, this is a unique formula. But as someone who's been reviewing indie makeup for 10 years, unique, I don't know about that. You can get a similar or a more impactful result than that from the indie shadows for much less money. So I feel like it was almost the rosy, hazy glow of Patrick Ta kind of fell to the wayside this year. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I definitely feel like people are looking at the brand without the rose-colored glasses, and it's going to be interesting to see what he has for 2025. Also, I want to mention the BB Burst by Kosas. I don't think that this was a good formulation. It was goopy, it was heavy, it was oily. I did not like it at all. I also did not like, and I'm actually wearing it today, the Hourglass pressed powder. It's not that I dislike it. I just don't think it's worth that price tag. You can get a better powder at the drugstore for a fourth of the price. It is not worth that price tag whatsoever. I'm sorry, it's not worth that price. Also, the REM blushes and bronzers, they kind of fell flat. I feel like there was a little hype on them. People were like, oh, these look cute. I'm so excited brand are releasing more things. And then crickets. Nothing. Nobody was talking about these. And the ones who were talking about them, they were like me. Meh. They were okay. They weren't bad. They weren't great. I did declutter them from my collection because I thought that like they were pretty mid. There's no need for me to be hoarding those. So I feel like that was one of the releases where there was a little hype before and then people were just kind of meh about them. Then I'm gonna say one thing that I think is controversial and not everybody agrees, but I'm gonna die on this hill. I might die on this hill. I don't think that the Huda Beauty Icy Nude lived up to the hype. She was selling us a dream. This was gonna be her last big palette, and I don't think this palette was great. I don't think the formulations were 100%. I don't think the color story was 100%. I feel like a lot of shades in this palette are very similar. Even on my light medium skin tone, some of these shades look exactly the same on the eyes. I don't think that this was well thought through. I think that they had an idea. I think that they had a vision of an icy nude palette. And then they picked shade to fit the theme, but they didn't think about how will people use this palette. Is this a usable palette, or does it just look cool to photograph? Because there's also a pressed glitter in here it wouldn't even be good quality if it came out in 2014. And I'm just so questioning why we would put that in there. I just don't think that this palette, it isn't an awful palette, but it definitely did not live up to the hype that Huda Beauty was trying to create around this. And I say this as someone who really likes Huda Beauty. I think Huda Beauty makes really, really good products. I just don't think that this was one of them. I am also quickly going to mention something where I'm like, what in the actual happened here? And that is the Gourmande fragrance that Replica was releasing. This was supposed to smell like Madeleine cakes. I love Replica. I have rarely came across one of their scents that I don't like. I feel like Replica is like Kayali for me. Even though they sometimes do notes or themes that I don't like, I think that they do it in a way where they can make me like something that I don't even like. So when they were like, oh, we're gonna release a Gourmande perfume, I was like, oh, maybe this could be a Gourmande that's for me. No. They said that this was gonna be like Madeleine cakes. This is stale leftover cookies at the gas station. This is not it. This smells really bad. Yes, that's what this is. A very strong hint of stale leftover cookies from the gas station. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Next one is usually one of the most fun categories because this is what was the biggest curveball, which is basically when products are released, there are very unexpected or collabs are coming out where we're like, what exactly is going on here? Or my absolute favorite, when makeup brands are coming out with something that isn't makeup, where you're like, who's this for? My first favorite being Rare Beauty releasing dog toys. I usually get some PR from Rare Beauty. They didn't send me this one, and I'm low-key a little salty. And I probably should have gone in and bought them, although I will say my dogs are swimming in toys. Absolutely swimming in toys. If there's one thing they don't need, it's more toys. I have them on the BarkBox subscription. I give them new toys all the time. They literally have toys everywhere. It's coming out of the wazoo. They definitely don't need more. But when Rare Beauty was like, let's release dog toys, it was a little weird. Also, e.l.f. did a collab with Stanley Cup, which was also like, it was like lip oils that was the same color as limited edition Stanley Cups with a lip oil holder for your Stanley Cup. And I just feel like, you know when you see those TikToks where the girls are like putting the entirety of a handbag on the Stanley Cup and they're like, so you don't need a handbag? And I'm just like, well, the Stanley Cup is your handbag because it has a handle and you're holding it in your hand. Like, what are we not getting with this concept? I don't understand. It probably weighs more than your handbag too. Like, I don't get it. But you remember those? I feel like e.l.f. and Stanley was just kind of like buying into this hype. And I'm just over here being like, we know this is just for the TikToks, right? Like, we know that it's for the views. We know that people aren't really walking around with their Stanley Cups filled with like sanitizer and the little thingies for the earbuds. And like, we know that that's not happening, right? So when they released this collab, I was like, okay, so this is for the TikTokers, the people who want to get the views. It's not for actual consumers. One thing that I did not think was going to be as popular as it is, and I've actually seen these. I've seen these in the wild, and that is the Rode phone cases where you pull up the glass in. I've seen people use these, like actual human beings out in the wild, not influencers. And I was like eyeing it, and I almost wanted to be like, did you buy that? Like with your own money? Like with actual money? Did you buy it? I did not. I guess I'm just not totally understanding the hype around Rode. Maybe it's because I never tried the brand. What do I know? Maybe it's actually magic in there. Again, it's Gen Z and Gen Alpha is just very against handbags. They just want to hold their Stanley Cup and their phone and they just clip all these accessories to them. I just like a handbag. I also put on this list the Milk Jelly Blushes. Now I've started to see some brands duping this formula, and I found it very interesting how Milk was actually, because this was a curveball. It is very, very, very rare that we see a makeup product come out that is actually a new formula. Or maybe they're not the first ones to do this formula, which is perfectly fine as well, but at least they popularized this formula. It's so rare to see something where it's like, wow, this is actually something new, which is not easy to make. You need a lot of capital to do something like that. You need a lot of time to do something like that. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of impressive. And I've said this in my review of these blushes. Is this the best blush I've ever used? No, you can use them on your lips too. I actually like them on my lips more, but it is fun. If you have a lot of makeup and you just want to add something to your collection that is different, that is fun, maybe this is it. Quite honestly, it's not a bad product. It's just different. I kind of like it for that. There was also toothpaste in collaboration with Shuba Shoops this year, which is just not it. I understand that not everybody wants mint toothpaste. I am all down for that. I love me mint fluoride toothpaste. I am old school. I do team science. I have not said that in a long time, but we are team science on this channel, and I am definitely for fluoride in your toothpaste. It's good for you, okay? It actually does something. And I understand that not everybody's for mint. I totally get that, but chocolate? Because one of them is chocolate. You want chocolate toothpaste. Isn't that why we're using the toothpaste to like freshen? Absolutely not. I did not understand that at all. There was also a pretzel perfume, a pizza perfume, although I will say this fizzy Coke perfume, absolutely delicious. We had this weird Real Technique fingerprint sponge that just literally made no sense. Even when they tried to explain it to us, we were like, no, we're not buying that at all, babes. Like, just lose it. And I dare to say that the biggest curveball of 2024 was the resurrection of the original Naked palette. Who had that on their bingo card? Because not me. Now we're getting into the question, what was the biggest snooze fest or letdown of this year? And I'm gonna say the first thing that I thought was a little bit of a letdown is that this is the third year in a row where Pat McGrath just doesn't really catch the audience the way that it did in the beginning. The Valentine's release that they had, the re-release of this Mothership palette. Listen, this is how Pat McGrath has become at this point. This Mothership that they released, it is so similar to, let's be honest, all other palettes that they've ever released, that I had to Google to see, is this a new palette or not? And I honestly still don't know. I think this is a re-release of an old Mothership palette with new packaging, but honestly, at this point, who knows? Maybe not. They're all the same. They're all the same pink, gold, mauve, neutral with one multichrome in there. And I'm just like, I don't think anyone is like super intrigued by this anymore. And I don't really, because I think they have some bomb product. Their bronzer, their matte powder bronzer, I literally used it yesterday. It is so good. I mentioned it in my yearly favorites last year. Absolutely love it. Their powder blushes are amazing. Their foundation, I'm actually wearing the foundation today. I was like, am I not? I'm wearing the foundation today. That's the foundation that I have on my skin. So good. The basic products, like the cornerstones of this brand, there's some really kick-ass products in that line. But since then, every time they release something, it's just kind of like it's just not super exciting. And I cannot help to think that I think this is like the third year in a row where people are just like, this isn't the brand we fell in love with. So I'm hoping to see something really exciting from them next year, or maybe an add to the core line that is just as good as the bronzers were that they released last year, because I really love those bronzers. I also have to say, KKW Beauty re-releasing Under Skin, what was that? That was the opposite of exciting. This recycled cardboard packaging with a color scheme that quite honestly just is different shades of paper as well. It goes from bleached envelope into wet cardboard boxes. It's just not a fun brand. I am sorry. I am all for neutrals. Quite honestly, I feel like these 2 past years has been me embracing neutrals too. But I just cannot get excited about beiges when it is 50 shades, quite literally 50 shades of beige next to each other all lined up. It's like a box of crackers. That's what her entire brand is. It's just a box of crackers and you just pick one. I can't get excited by this. I also quickly want to mention that the Natasha Denona Golden palette kind of deserves to be in this position. I still think this palette is good quality. There's nothing really wrong with this palette, but the thing that people loved about the original gold palette was that this was a neutral palette, a neutral golden palette with a twist. It had that teal color, it had a mustard, it had that lime chrome, which was a gold lime green duochrome, and she took all of the excitement out of the gold palette and just released the golden palette as a just golden palette. And I think that Natasha Denona just really didn't understand why people loved the golden palette, why people actually loved the gold palette. They loved the gold palette because it had the twist. They loved the gold palette because they could do all the neutral looks they wanted, but if they wanted to spruce it up, they had, 3-4 shades in there that went with the palette, but also you can use them on your own to, for your own sake, decide what level of twist am I ready for today. And this new palette just didn't have that. It was all caramelly browns and golds. And I just think she missed the mark. She didn't get the memo. Like, I think that she would have been better off releasing the golden like the original gold was. Just updated the formula and the packaging and released it as that golden neutral palette with twist. Because the way she released it now, it's not bad. It's just a snooze fest because we know what the original looked like. I have a category that is the unsung heroes of this year. And I gotta tell you, there are a couple of products that I think are so good, and I don't think that they got the hype that they deserve, because I did talk about a couple of things that I feel lived up to the hype, but now I want to talk about a couple of things that I really like, that I've really been enjoying, that I have either reviewed really highly or that I've been using and traveling with this year, that for one reason or another just didn't get the hype that I personally think that they might have deserved. The first one being the One Size mattifying primer. It is this one, the one that's called the Oil Sucker Primer. This is the most intense mattifying primer out there. It is truly a lifesaver. I'm not using it today, and you can see that I'm pretty glowy in my T-zone. Again, I'm wearing the Pat McGrath foundation, so it does turn a little glowy, but not greasy oily, and it doesn't break up on me. That's why I didn't use this, because I knew that I was only going to be filming for a little bit, and I started filming after lunch. I'm like, maybe I don't need a mattifying primer today, but this one actually really works. If you are looking for a mattifying primer that's truly going to make a difference, this is so good that I only use it in my T-zone where I actually need to be mattified. I'm not using this on the perimeter of my face because I don't need to be that matte there. This really prolongs your makeup, keeps your makeup from breaking up, keeps you from getting greasy. I truly trust this one, and I feel like I've seen some people talk about this one, but this has not gotten the hype that it truly deserves, because this truly is a great product that really will save you if you feel like your oily skin sometimes ruins your makeup day. The next ones I want to talk about are the liquid blushes by Huda Beauty. I don't know why these didn't get the hype that they deserved, and I'm wondering if it's because they came out with so few colors to begin with, because I only think they had like 4 or 5 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades. They came out with 5 shades, and since then they've added 2 more shades. And for being a mainstream brand, that is not a lot of shades. It's actually quite a few shades for being a mainstream brand. And I'm wondering if that is the reason why they weren't more hyped, because this is a genius product. This is a liquid blush that is pigmented, but not too pigmented, that blends together. The colors blend together greatly, blends together on the skin. You can even, if you want to use it on top of powder, it's not as good as without, but you can make it work basically. And it has a slight sheen to it so that it looks glowy on the skin without being tacky or sticky or breaking up your makeup. A little bit like my Cinch blushes. There's a little bit of sheen to it, but they're not sparkly metallic. This formula is so nice. They even smell nice. And I'm wondering, is it the color scheme that made them not get more hype, because this is truly a really good formula and it's one of the better liquid blush formulas out there, according to me. So I'm wondering what the reason could be. I also have to say the ABH BB foundation stick. It's not a foundation, it's like a BB cream stick. I got this one sent to me because ABH wondered if I wanted to do a sponsored video with them. So I got this one sent to me. I used it because I was like, it's an oily, glowy, it's like basically an oil stick, but it's great. And I had to be like, wow, this is not what I thought this was going to be at all. And I'm wondering if they, I don't know, like, did they market it incorrectly? Because this looks and feels like skincare on your skin. And it is a sheer coverage, so you cannot build this one up. It will start to feel a little thick if you try to build it up because it is a very emollient stick. But you can literally blend this in with your fingers. You can use a powder, you cannot use a powder. And it does get a little oily with time, but it's also so sheer that it doesn't look, there's nothing to break up. It just looks like really fresh skincare. It looks like you're having the best, like, just skin day ever. This is perfect for those long days because eventually it will fade gracefully. It will just make your skin just look fresh and glowy. I've been traveling with this one. I'm so impressed with this release. And it didn't really release, like, get a lot of hype at all. It released in the beginning of the year and it's a really good product. I also wanted to mention, I could have mentioned this under the like indie palettes that was amazing, like indie palettes that lived up to the hype, but I ranked this palette as #1 month when I was like ranking my palettes, and I don't think that this palette really got the hype that it deserved, and I'm wondering what the reason is. I think actually, if I'm gonna speculate, this is the Aurora Lights by Simply Posh Cosmetics. It's a great palette. I ranked it as #1. I think it is absolutely amazing. I think the reason why Simply Posh is not getting as much hype as other brands is that they are not releasing as much makeup, and they're usually sold out in between releases, which leaves them with a website but there's nothing available. And I think that that has been to their fault as of late, that when people come to their website, there hasn't really been anything to purchase, and I really hope that they're able to get that in order so that there are at least some things in stock at their website. I think it's been a little bit better as of late because this brand makes really interesting color stories, really great palettes. I love the Aurora Lights palette. The Citrus Punch is so great. They re-released that this year. So I just really hope that this brand gets the level of hype that they deserve for 2025. Because I looked at this when I looked through my rankings, I was like, wow, not a lot of people mentioned this palette, and it's a shame because it's great. #7 is what is the best holiday release of this year, and I have a couple of things that I want to mention, and I'm going to mention this as 2 palettes that have a holiday theme and 1 palette that I'm pretty sure is the holiday release for that brand this year. Because a lot of brands, including my brand, will release things around the holiday season, but it might not necessarily be like holiday themed because sometimes it's really hard with shipping and everything, but we still want to release something in the holiday times. So the 2 palettes that I want to mention that have a holiday theme is one of the palettes from Oden's Eye, which is the Silvery Bliss. I like that one better than the other palette, and the Cosmic Beauty one, the This Season, I think it's called. Beautiful palettes, beautiful color stories. And what I think that these palettes did really well is that they have a Christmas theme, but they also have a color story that will work outside of the Christmas season. It's not just a very Christmassy color scheme. You can do other things with it as well. It will work in other seasons or together with other palettes. They're just interesting textures and undertones and variety in the brands. And they have the same great quality in these holiday releases as they have in their normal releases, which I think is very important because there are definitely some mainstream brands that tend to release some holiday releases around this time that just are not as good quality as they normally are, which is just, to me, weird, but I'm happy to see that at least indie brands are not doing this. I also wanted to mention the Natasha Denona Roxa palette, because this is the holiday palette from Natasha Denona this year, and I think that this palette is beautiful. I think it's good quality, I think it's interesting, I think it has a lot of variation within a pretty, somewhat monochromatic color scheme, and if you like shopping at Sephora or Ulta and you don't want to shop from indie brands, I definitely think that this is a great colorful option for you, because mainstream brands don't always do color well, But this palette from Natasha Denona really, really did. Second to last question is gonna be, what was the best collab of 2024? And there's a couple of collabs that I think have been really good. I think that ColourPop has had a couple of good collabs this year where I'm like, okay, you did the franchise justice, you came out with some nice products and people seem to agree that these were nice. I think the Twilight collab was very on point with the color scheme of the whole palette and everything, and I think the lip oils were really smart for that collab. I also think the Pokemon collab was pretty cool for the whole like idea of Pokemon, and then they had that lip mask and the little Pokeball. I thought that was pretty cool. The Beauty and the Beast is probably the smartest like color scheme that they have done for an eyeshadow palette, where they actually were able to not only capture the color scheme of the palette, but also make it a wearable palette. Because I feel like sometimes ColourPop will either do a color scheme that makes sense to use on your eyes, but then people are like, where is this color, where is that color? Or they'll make something that makes sense with the color scheme of the movie or the franchise, but then it's like an unusable color story. Looking at you, Snow White, I did not like that color story at all, and I thought they did a really good job with that one. I also want to say, I've been shit talking Patrick Ta in this video, but his collab with Barbie, that like blush duo and the lip gloss, absolutely genius. The Profusion collab that they did with Turtles was a really beautiful collab, high quality, affordable. You can find it at like Walmart. It was a really good one. I also think the best collab that Glamlight has done this year, quite honestly, is the Betty Boop one. Dang, that quality was beautiful. That palette was stunning. Everything about that collab. Formula of the lipstick was 10 out of 10. I just think that they nailed that collab. And that is also a collab that did not get the amount of hype that it truly deserved. Also, I forgot to mention, ColourPop also did the Stranger Things collab. And I think, again, it makes sense. The lip glosses looked really cute for like the Christmas lights. And I thought that they did a good job being able to do something that was usable and it made sense for the series with a color scheme that people could agree like this makes sense for the series, and the products were pretty decent as well. So I thought that collab was pretty good as well. But I have to say, the collab that I think is the best this year, and I'm not mentioning influencer collabs here because a lot of the influencer collabs that I have loved this year have been friends of mine, and of course I love them, but I'm also like a little bit biased, and I think all of my friends are doing amazing things. Truly amazing things. If you ever see me not talking about a Friends collab on here, that's probably when you can be like, I wonder about the quality of this one. But I think my friends have impeccable taste and I love the collabs that they've been doing. But my favorite collab that is with a franchise this year has to be the Lethal Cosmetics and the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not only is it beautiful, absolutely beautiful, I love the palettes. I thought the quality was beautiful. I thought the mattes were truly the best mattes that they've ever done. I love them. I thought they were pigmented and blendable and buildable. I had no problems at all with them. They had some really cool, like the cabbages sponge, the appa bag, the eyeliners, the lipsticks. It was a truly spectacular collection, and you could tell that collection was made by someone who loves Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I loved it. And that comes from someone who actually really liked the palette that ColourPop did, the Avatar: The Last Airbender. I liked that palette a lot. I thought it was a great palette. But this one was for 9 pans, so you got one for each of the elements. And quite honestly, it was a stellar collection and I really, really enjoyed it. And it was definitely the best collab that I've seen this year. I thought they did an amazing job. The last question is if I have any makeup predictions for next year. I usually do like a makeup predictions video, and I would love to hear your makeup predictions down below. What do you think is going to happen for next year? And I am going to mention 2 things that I think is going to happen for 2025. First is going to be something that I've been talking about a lot, and you can see it today. I think we are watching the return of matte lips, and I think we are going to see matte lips, not even 2.0, but like 3.5. I think we're going to see new innovative formulas where you can get matte lips. This is from ITY. This is a liquid lipstick that is very similar to the ABH Lip Velvets, which is also an amazing like matte formula. I think we are going to see comfortable, almost silicone-y lip formulas that are moussey, that doesn't dry down, doesn't give that harsh line, that moves on the lips, but looks matte, feels comfortable. And I think next year, I think a lot of brands are going to release something like that. I would not be surprised if that is what we see. I love formulas like that, but I've just been seeing more matte formulas sneak in, and I'm just like, I think we're going to have a little bit of a resurgence of matte lips, and I hope they're just going to be a little bit more comfortable than they were in 2016-17, because some of those were a little bit cementy. The next thing that I think we're going to see in 2025, and I say this with love, but I think we're going to see price increases. If we truly start seeing tariffs on imports from different parts of the world, you are going to see not only is your like nail technicians and hairdressers going to have to charge more because a lot of things do come from outside of the US. Also, your favorite indie brands and some of your mainstream brands, even the ones that are made in the US, I would say a majority of ingredients and probably most, if not all, packaging comes from either China or countries around China. And I think that we are going to see some increases of makeup products if the tariffs actually is being put on imports, simply because that's a cost that the brands are going to have to take. It is what it is. And I really hope that we're going to be able to avoid that. But don't be surprised if you see brands increase their prices. It's getting more and more expensive to ship things and to import things. And I would not be surprised if 2025, we are going to see quite a lot of brands, and we've seen it before as well, but I think we're going to maybe see it on a wider array, even going down to smaller brands, having to increase the prices of their products just a smidgen to be able to pay for the increasing cost in producing, importing, or whatever it might be, different products or ingredients. That's what I think. I hope it's not going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I hope that you liked the video. Please let me know if you have any suggestions. What do you think? What would you have answered to any of these questions? I would love to hear it down below. Like I said, this is just an extra video that I film every year where I basically go through the releases of the year, let you know my thoughts, which I think were good, which I think were bad, which I think were boring, all of the tea, and I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you really soon in a new video. Bye!